Myself, Professor G.B. Bhagat from Department of Electronics, KB College, Pandharpur. In this fourth lecture of Unit 1 from paper number 10, we are going to cover the various points such as I/O ports of 8051, then functions of each I/O port. Let us see various I/O ports of this 8051 microcontroller. One major feature of the 8051 microcontroller is that it can be connected directly with the devices outside world. That is, any device can be connected directly to the microcontroller. Then there are 4 I/O ports for this purpose, as port 0, port 1, port 2 and port 3. Here each port is 8-bit in size and it has the bidirectional capability. That is, these ports are bidirectional ports. Except for port 1, all the ports are having alternate functions. Let us see first port 0 in detail. Port 0 is denoted as P0. The port 0 has 8 pins from P0.0 to P0.7. Here P0 stands for port 0 and next 0 after the dot is for pin number of that port. That is, P0.0 means first pin of that port and P0.7 is the last pin of that port. The next, it can be configured as normal bidirectional I/O port. That is, it can send the data output side or it can also take the data as input for the controller. Also, it can be used for multiplexed address data bus to access the external memory. That is, if we have to connect the external memory to the microcontroller, then we have to use port 0 along with port 2, and at the time port 0 will be work as multiplexed address data bus of that memory interfacing. The next, when it is used as input port, logic 1 must be written to all the pins by the program. That is, if we have to configure this port as input, then we should write data FF to that port. Then it requires external pull-up registers of 10 kilo ohm to supply logic high when it is used as an output port. Here 10 kilo ohm resistor we should connect to the every pin of this port P0 so as to set the output at logic high level. The next, let us see port 1. Port 1 is denoted by P1. It has 8 pins ranging from P1.0 to P1.7. It can be configured as normal bidirectional I/O port. Then it has no any alternate function as other ports. That is, this is only the port which have only one function, that is simply bidirectional input or output. It do not have any alternate function. The next, when it is used as input port, then logic 1 must be written to all the pins by the program. That is, for 8 pins we should write the data FF on this port through the program. Let us see how logic 1 will be sent at the output, or writing 1 to the output pin of port 1. For that, it is the internal structure of port 0 pin, port 1 pins, which consist of one D flip-flop, then 2 controlled buffers, 1 switch as M1 and load L1. Here we have to see how logic 1 will be sent at the output or logic high will be sent at the output. For that, we should initially send 1 to the internal bus of controller, then this one will directly transferred to the output of latch. That is, this logic 1 will be directly available at Q. Because of this Q, complemented output of this latch becomes 0. That is, Q bar becomes 0, and this 0 is given to the switch. That is, here switch M1 is used, transistor is used as a switch, and it is denoted by M1. As 0 is the input for that switch, then that switch becomes closed. Therefore, the current flowing through the load will be diverted towards the pin instead of going towards the ground through switch M1. Therefore, output becomes connected to VCC, therefore output is at level 1. Hence we can say that this input 1 will be transferred at the output in this way. Similarly, if we have to write 0 to the pin, then and as per the same way this 0 will be transferred at the output. For that we have to write 0 to the CPU bus pin, then this 1 will be directly transferred to the output of D flip flop, that is at Q, and therefore complemented output of the D flip flop becomes 1, and because of this 1, transistor M1 becomes on and current will start to flow towards the ground through the load L1. Therefore voltage at pin becomes 0 as this pin is connected to ground, that is output becomes at logic 0, and hence we can say that this input 0 will be transferred at the output. The next, this port can also be used to read the data from external devices. Suppose here we have to read logic 1 at the input from the output. Initially output should be connected at logic 1 level by connecting it to VCC. Then to receive the input, this port should be this pin should be for this pin we should send logic 1 at the input through the bus like this. Then this one will be directly transferred to the output of D flip flop as Q. As Q is 1, Q bar becomes 0, and because of this 0, the switch M1 becomes off. As this switch M1 is off, the output current from VCC will travel or transfer towards the buffer TB1, and as we have to read this data to the input, therefore by activating or sending signal 1 at the read pin, that TB1 becomes on and current starts to flow through the TB1 buffer and reaches at the input bus. In this way we can say that external 1 will be received to the input pin inside the microcontroller through this pin. The next, similarly we can also receive the data logic 0 from outside world to the input. For that the output pin should be externally provided with logic 0 by connecting it to the ground, and to receive the data, that input pin or internal bus should be with logic 1. We should send logic 1 to the input bus through the controller. This one directly transferred to the output of D flip flop as Q. As Q is 1, Q bar becomes 0, and because of this 0, again that switch becomes off, and as switch is off, the output current directly flows towards the internal bus through the buffer TB1, and as we have to read the data inside, we should make the read pin equal to 1, that is we should on that TB1 buffer. In this way output current will be traveled or received at the input side, and logic 0 data will be received to the internal bus. This is all about the function of port 1. The next, let us see port 2. Port 2 has 8 pins ranging from P2.0 to P2.7. Then it can be configured as a normal bidirectional IO port. Also, along with this bidirectional IO function, it can be used for higher order address bus, that is A8 to A15 pins to access the external memory. That is, if we are going to interface the external memory to the controller, then this port can be used as a higher order address bus along with port 0, because here port 0 is used as in a lower order address bus, and port P2 will work as higher order address bus. The next, when it is used as input port, then logic 1 must be returned to all the pins by the program. The next, let us see about port 3. Port 3 has also 8 pins ranging from P3.0 to P3.7. Then it can be configured as normal bidirectional IO port. When it is used as input port, logic 1 must be written to all the pins by the program. That is, in short, here we remember that for all the ports, if we have to use any of the port as input, then we should send the data FF to the port through the program. Then here each pin of this port has different alternate functions. Let us see alternate functions of each pin of the port 3. There are total 8 pins, and here each pin have different function like this. These are the pins from P3.0 to P3.7, and let us see one by one alternate function of each pin. Pin 3.0 has alternate function of serial input port. That is, through this pin we can receive the data serially, or for serial reception this pin is used. Then second pin, that is P3.1, it has the function of serial output port. It is denoted by TXD. If we have to transfer the data serially, then we can use this pin, that is TXD. Then port pin P3.2 has the function of external interrupt 0. For external interrupt 0, P3.2 pin is used, and for external interrupt 1, P3.3 pin is used as INT1 bar. The next pin P3.4 has the function of timer 0 external input denoted by T0. There is, this pin have the function of timer 0, and P3.5 pin has the function of timer 1, that is timer 1 external input. The next pin P3.6 is used for external data memory write stroke. That is, if we are using interfacing the memory, then to write, for the write operation we are using pin 3.6. Similarly, pin 3.7 is used for read operation in case of external memory connection. There is these pin 3.6 and 3.7, two pins are used for external memory related operations, that is read and write. These are the various functions, or these are the various alternate functions of each pin of port 3. We should here remember that each pin of P3 port 3 has separate or different function than other. So thank you very much.